Following the debut of Search for a Star on last week's show, I think it's safe to say it's earned its place in the starting lineup on today's episode. But before we search for this week's star, let's talk about our findings from last week. Now, in case you missed it, myself and RDF Tactics attempted to find a player who wasn't shining in their current role with the simple task of hopefully turning them into a gem of an inverted wing-back, using 5 key attributes which we thought were passing, dribbling, off the ball, decision-making and stamina. But before we share with you our findings, we've had some listeners get in touch to advise that they have tried this themselves. Shout out to Anthony Sheldon _ on Twitter, who suggests Angelino. Didn't say who he used him for, but apparently it's worth a shout for an inverted wing-back. Adam Turley, who is Total Slothball on Twitter. Chao Paulista is a player I converted into the position, but as to say perfect, perhaps not perfect. You know what, Adam? There'll be a little bit more of that being discussed a little bit later on. And Jamie Cook at Jamie _ Cook with double O's and double K's said, last year all I did was convert central midfielders to right backs, and I almost had a carbon copy of Trent Alexander-Arnold, which I guess is kind of what we were hoping for. Is that right?
Yeah, it's literally exactly what we're looking for. Literally.
Yeah. So who did you? So we'll look at last week. We'll look at last week then, right? Who did you choose, and how did you get on?
Well, I chose Manu Trigueros from Villarreal, and I've signed him at Manchester City, of course. I've just tried to copy Pep Guardiola's tactics here, and I just put Trigueros as an inverted wing back. He's performed. It was alright. One thing I didn't actually notice at the time was his acceleration and pace. So like someone said, it may not have been perfect. Well, this one here, it wasn't perfect, especially watching the games. But he did play 21 games in the Premier League. He scored 1 goal, had an XG of 2.2, so he's underperforming in that area. He did manage to grab 6 assists, which was the same amount as João Cancelo. So he done well going further forward. He got an expected assist as well of 3.75. So going forward, he did really well. His average rating though, 6.78. I'm not quite happy with that result, if I'm honest with you. So was this a success? We won the league. We spent 18 million on him, but nah. I think I've got this one wrong. I've got this one wrong, I think. I've got this one wrong.
I would take that every single day of the week because it's because I'm comparing with João Cancelo. That's the only reason, and he's got an average rating of 7.07. So I think there's certain things like tackles won and how they just defended in general. Maybe that's what let Manu Trigueros down, possibly. See, that's the thing, though. You're comparing someone who actually does that role rather than a makeshift player who you're trying to mould into that position. Now, I went with, and first of all, apologies for pronouncing his name wrong last week. He's not called Dennis Zakaria. Apparently he's called Dennis Zakaria. So I went with Dennis Zakaria at Chelsea, who, as we know, was a very strong defensively minded midfielder. I thought he's got all the traits of a perfect inverted wing-back. So I had Reece James on the right, and I had Zakaria on the left. Okay, now I had a 3 central defender system as well, so my 2 inverted wing-backs coming up front. I had 2 holding midfielders, of course, with Kante and Jorginho, and I thought that's good. You know, Zakaria's going to get into that position. Now, what I've noticed, because we were simulating this, okay, the game likes to replace managers quite quickly. So I had to load myself back in a second time into Chelsea several times because clearly the tactic was wrong. It wasn't my selection of Dennis Zakaria was wrong. But yeah, I got to the end of a season eventually. Had a sort of similar experience to yourself, really. Average rating of about 6.7, which I guess I'll just about take for someone who's obviously not left-footed for a start. So I'm retraining him to come inside onto his right. Stats-wise, 47.05 passes completed per 90.
It's not too bad. Possession lost 18.35. Cool. That's per 90 as well. That's not great. 2.4 dribbles. He assisted 3 times though, so that's quite handy. Completed 78% of his passes, 78% of his tackles, which was 2.86 tackles per 90, and he won 77% of his headers. So sort of okay, but poor Ben Chilwell must have been on the bench going, what do I have to do to get in this squad?
Absolutely fuming. And Cucurella as well. Just spend 60 million just to sit on the bench for Dan Zakaria. Possibly he's getting in the right areas, but he just doesn't know what to do once he does get the ball in those sort of areas. So he's just losing the ball.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's on his wrong foot doesn't help either. He gets into a congested midfield, and it's... So yeah, not quite perfect, but
so that's the thing. I actually spent time as well. I've made sure Trigueros is trained in that role as well. So I've done the training, the preseason, everything. He's even both-footed, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's because I'm Manchester City and we won the league, Champions League as well. But he's like literally the only player in the whole squad with a rating below 7, which possibly harsh because he's the central midfielder going to fullback, but at the same time, we did have a lot of the ball, so I was kind of expecting more from him.
Yeah, Chelsea did not win the league. He also did not qualify for Europe. So it was, for me, I would class that as a failed experiment, to be honest. But that was last week. This week is a brand new week, and we might have a tiny bit more success potentially. As we look for our new position. So, of course, last week was inverted wing backs. This week, we are looking for box-to-box midfielders. Who is out there who's not a box-to-box midfielder, who has all the attributes of a box-to-box midfielder? Think Joe Linton, not a striker who was going to get you goals, but all of a sudden he's converted into a very good box-to-box midfielder. I suppose the reminder would be how we do this. 5 attributes, as we say, across technicals, mentals, and physicals. Attribute masking is off. Aaron, talk us through what we're going to be looking for.
So, exactly like last week, we are looking for players not shining in their current role. And we're aiming for a bargain. So we've capped it at £30 million. Yes, you definitely can have a £30 million bargain. So we've chosen 5 attributes for a box-to-box midfielder. And those 5 attributes are: 1, technical, is dribbling. 2 will be mental, anticipation and decision-making. And then the last 2 will be physical, strength and stamina.
Perfect. There you go. Dribbling, anticipation, decisions, strength and stamina. Let's search for a star. Search for a star. Still don't know if we've got a tune yet. I don't know if we've got a jingle or anything, so I'll just sing that for now. Right, that's the jingle done. Aaron, take it away. What have you got? You get first one up on this one.
Well, my list, I'm really, really looking forward to this test. I thought I was looking forward to the inverted wingback one, but this one I'm really looking forward to. But I've got 2 ex-Tottenham players on my list. Well, one's actually a current player. I know it hurts. And one of those ex-Spursy players is Eric Lamela. Lamela, now, he's got all the attributes that we're talking about, but he's got some more. Like tackling is on 13. Now, I think that's very, very handy for a box-to-box midfielder, of course, but he's also got the long shots as well. So he's not just technically great for this role, but he can also handle the physical side, but also the tackling or the defensive side of the things, apart from his positionings on 9. It's on 9. But my number 1 for this list is going to be Eric Lamela.
That's a good shout, because I think a lot of people would overlook him. First of all, I'm going, he's too short. And then I'm going, he's 5'11". He's not, he's taller than I imagine him. I always thought he was about 5'6" or something. So, maybe he can get himself in there, do a bit of the dirty work, get his arms and elbows going. So a player that I've looked at that I think could be a box-to-box midfielder, I've gone with Paulinho from Sporting Lisbon. Now, a striker by trade, but again, I've gone very much on the money of, Joe Linton was a striker who could play box-to-box midfielder. So let's look at someone else who's very similar, who could do quite a similar job. And that's what I've come up with. I figured that Paulinho's probably the guy. Good strength, good stamina, 6'2", gets himself in there, comes deep to get the ball as one of his traits anyway, so that could again help us in terms of that box-to-box midfielder. The long-range passing, we might have to try and train that out of him, unless he picks it up slow and then pings it up top and then runs around after it. He might be able to do that. He's composed. His decision-makings are good. His anticipation is slightly on the lower side for what we would want, but as an overall package, I think maybe.
Absolutely. We're talking, what, 10 million here for someone that's... He's almost perfect. I mean, apart from his actual reading of the game, so off the ball and anticipation, both on 12, so it's kind of the average. It's not like he's poor in that area, but then I'm looking at his passing, technique, and his vision. Here we've got a good box-to-box midfielder, but we've also got a very decent creative midfielder as well. And like you said, excellent presence in midfield.
He could even be a deep line playmaker with that vision and passing, to be honest.
Exactly.
So maybe
that.
He's saved him for a couple of weeks' time.
And this week for Search for a Star, deep line playmaker, Paulinho again.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my number one. Who have you got in front of two?
My number two, we're just going to go for the Spurs player again, Matt Doherty, the right back.
Yes.
Now, he's not favoured by Conte as a right back, so Conte, I've got a role for him. A box-to-box or a ball-winning midfielder. You can plunk him in central midfield, but looking at for box-to-box, again, he's actually very well-rounded. Now, I'm looking at his attributes. I can't tell you what he can't do other than take a corner or take a penalty. He pretty much can do everything on the football pitch.
He's a good player. When we sort of like thought about this, I saw Matt Doherty on the list as well, and I was like, that's a great shout. Straight away, I was like, that's a great shout. I was going to put him on my list as well, but I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna hold off. But looking at him again, I'm thinking he is literally the blueprint, isn't he?
Even for the ball carrying as well. So he's got the dribbling there. He's off the ball. He's on 16, and I can't wait. I think I'm trying him. I think I know already who I'm going to be trying for this test.
Well, we can't wait to see RDF Tactics managing Tottenham. Who'd have thought it? Right, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be managing Tottenham. I might manage Valencia, and I'm going to have a look at Mukhtar Diakabi. I think that's how I pronounce it. I've certainly said it with enough vigour to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. But again, what have my players got in common? Height and physicality. 6'4" centre-back. He's a powerful centre-back, but you know what? He might also be quite decent a little bit further forward. Dribbling isn't ideal, I'll be honest, but he's determined. He's got good positioning sense. His work rate's high, so he will add those extra things that we're not necessarily looking for here. But anticipation's good. His decision-making is very good as well. Very strong, of course, physically, and stamina. Of course, he can go for days. So I'm thinking possibly the fact he brings the ball out of defence as well. He's a natural ball-playing defender. Just move a bit higher up the pitch, Mukhtar. Just move a bit higher up the pitch. Just keep going. You know, we love a ball playing defender on this match engine. So why not start on your 18-yard box? Maybe even 2/3 of the way up the pitch. Just keep going, pal. You've got this.
Exactly. Don't just bring it out from defence. Bring it out of midfield as well. Just keep going.
Just keep going. Run, Forrest, run.
I can't wait. Please make sure that is who you're picking next week, because I really need to see that. I really need to see that. So now, number 3, and like we said, we mentioned Joe Linton. I've had to go for a striker as well, and we've gone for Pedro at Flamengo. A lot of Football Manager players would have used them already. I think in previous years, he was one of those youngsters that you can get. He's a striker. He works hard for your team, and he was cheap. He's now 25 years of age. He's still very good, but he also looks like he could be a very good midfielder. Of course, that's why we're talking about him right now. He's got the work rate. He's literally got everything. Now, what he doesn't have is the tackling or the positioning. So possibly, if you want to use him as a box-to-box midfielder, you would just get him to get further forward, possibly run with the ball. Maybe you want to get the attacking side of the things when it comes to the box-to-box midfielder. And maybe he could be lacking tracking back and working I wouldn't say working hard for your team, but winning the ball back for your team. He may struggle there, but other than that, I mean, here again, we've got a Joe Linton version 2.
Yeah, and he shoots from distance, so once he gets to the top of the box, boom! Straight in. With his 12 long shots. Right, final one. If you think that one's going to be good, now, of course, we all know I enjoy a bit of lower league management. How's about an absolute bargain? 6'5" worth of Tom Bloxham from Shrewsbury. Okay?
Wow.
Now, these attributes are all relative, because, of course, we're not always going to look for the top players, but this guy, 18 years old, currently at Shrewsbury, a striker. Now, if you just scroll down on your screen for the people who are watching on YouTube, this, of course, for the audio listeners, I'll explain. Tom Bloxham has a player trait of attempts overhead kicks. Now, he also has flair of 7, so I'm taking that out of him, right? He's not.
You don't want to attempt a push-gas award goal? No? Overhead kick from outside the box?
He's going to get it from the halfway line, right? There's Zlatan one against England. He's doing that, right? So, but ignore that bit for now. Look at everything else about him. So, of course, physical presence, 6'5", right? Great for when the ball's played over the air. He's going to intercept that easily. Stamina 12, strength 13. So again, in these lower leagues, he's going to be a big, strong player. Could even play up into the Championship, maybe lower part of the Premier League, maybe once he gets to 19, 20 possibly. Decision making, pretty good. Again, 11, and he's only 18. Anticipation, 11. Dribbling, 11. These are all raw base attributes. So for me, I think, and I know we're maybe thinking Valencia could be the save for me, I wonder what Tom Bloxham would be like in the Championship as a box-to-box midfielder. I wonder if anyone's going to do that or not, or whether it's just me and my crazy thinking.
That would be interesting because, like you did mention, he's only 18, so there's a lot of room to improve. He can grow, and it doesn't look like he's going to be the world-class striker. So this could be another reason for you just to shift him in midfield. And I have looked at his stats as well. He's played 38 games for Shrewsbury. He's only scored 2 goals, so I think
he's not quite a striker, is he?
Yeah, we're onto something. Moving him into midfield, we're possibly onto something.
Excellent. Okay, well, what we'll do, as like last week, we will have a think about this. We'll do some simulations. We will come back and we will check and see if any of this works or whether we are just shouting into the proverbial void. Obviously, all these bits will be on the Football Manager Show YouTube channel, so head across to there, give us a like and a subscribe on there as well. And of course, have a go yourself. Let us know if it works for you. If you've managed to get Tom Bloxham into a world-class box-to-box midfielder, please let us know, because I think that's the one that we want to see. And if you want us to search for a star for you, please get in touch. Tell us the position that you're after, mention a budget, tell us what league you're playing in, and more importantly, what year. Because as we said last week, there's no point telling us you want a player for 2052 when they're all new gens. So, as I say, get in touch, and we'll see you next week on Search for a Star.